Okay, so thank you for coming to hear an update on our system improvements that are planned for the next upcoming 3 fiscal years. I'm going to go through a presentation here, and after we're recording tonight, and this will be uploaded to the GEUS website after this meeting. So what we're going to cover is some information about GEUS system, our mission, what the drivers are for these projects, why they're needed, some details on the different projects, and then we'll wrap up with the financial impacts. So GEUS was formed in 1891 by the community. Private utilities would not provide electric service to Greenville. They were focused on more heavily populated areas where they had more opportunity to connect the most customers for the most money. So the citizens formed this utility and have funded all of the system infrastructure and operations since the formation of the utility. So our rates are based on the cost to provide service and to build and maintain the system. And all of the infrastructure and operations are funded through rates. Generation has been produced locally in Greenville since 1891. So the governance of GEUS is a little different than a lot of other municipal utilities. The picture is our current GEUS board. In 1989, the GEUS Board of Trustees was formed to manage and oversee the utility as a governing board. They were granted the authority to set rates and issue bonds, and that was enabled by both legislation and a vote of the citizens. And I guess the authority granted to the GEUS board is in the city charter in Article 11A. GEUS's service territory extends beyond the city limits, and that's something that I think isn't commonly known, but the city limits is about 32 square miles, and GEUS's service territory extends to 97 square miles surrounding the city limits. We have 32 miles of transmission lines, 594 miles of overhead distribution, 149 miles of underground distribution, and those miles are growing by the day. As new subdivisions are built and we extend service to those new homes, those numbers grow. And we are interconnected with ERCOT. And if I'd been given this presentation a couple of years ago, I would feel the need to explain what ERCOT is, but I feel like everyone in Texas and probably the world now knows what ERCOT is, so we'll skip that. A little highlight on our rates. Our last base rate increase was in 2014, 10 years ago. Our base rates decreased in 2020, and no base rate increase is needed in fiscal year 25. In July, our rates were 19% below power to choose rates for the average Greenville customer, residential. Several components make up the rates. So the base rates are easy to think about as a delivery charge. The fuel adjustment charge is actually energy cost. And so what we produce, when we generate electricity, it produces a revenue, or sell energy services, and ERCOT produces a revenue that offsets a cost to purchase energy. And so the net cost is passed through to customers through the fuel adjustment charge. We also have a regulatory charge, and that regulatory charge is for transmission. So we're part of a larger network of transmission in ERCOT, and all the transmission owners in ERCOT collect their costs through rates. GEUS, as a transmission owner, bills other transmission owners. The net of those costs are passed through the regulatory charge. The customer charge is administrative costs that are the same for every customer in a customer class, and so that's your billing, your me and administration. And then we also have transfers to the city and to GBOD. And that's the Greenville Board of Development, and that's to support economic development in the community. So our mission is to maintain competitive rates, increase system reliability, and improve services for the customers we serve. And that is the focus that we come to work with each and every day, and I know that is top of mind for our board as well. So what are the drivers for these improvements? Well, a big one is growth. We've seen unprecedented growth on our system. We've seen a 19% increase in customers since 2019. We're in 2023, at the end of the year, we were serving 16,678 customers, and today we're serving a little over 17,200 customers. There are 56 homes in planning or in construction. And 5,600. I'm sorry, 5,600. Sorry, and 2,000 multifamily units that are in some stage of planning or construction. Since 2019, we connected 2 new manufacturing businesses and supported 2 large local business expansions. And there are 3 new manufacturing businesses in planning. And if I can just put that into perspective, if a megawatt will serve 200 residential homes, a 5 megawatt customer is going to be 10,000 homes. So they're make a much larger impact on the system. The other drivers are reliability, and when we think about reliability, we're really assessing the age and condition of assets, and many of our substations and our generation, portion of our generation is either passed into life or nearing end of life. And then the capacity of the assets, are we going to overload our substations, our transmission lines, and is our generation capacity sufficient to serve the load that we're obligated to serve? And our substations, we're looking at that capacity. We're in continual planning as we get information on the planned expansions, the new growth in the city and in our service territory. How do we support that growth? And we'll get into some details on the individual projects. But the capacity is a big component when we are experiencing growth on the system. And then timing. On growth, we cannot wait to serve that growth, to build the infrastructure to serve that growth when it's here. These are multi-year projects that take 2 to 3 years, and in some cases even longer than that to build. So we've got to forecast what that growth is going to look like, and we got to plan to serve it. And the risk is that if we don't stay ahead of that curve, then we shut it down. We're the reason that we can't continue the growth in Greenville, or it's delayed. Because you cannot build new homes or build new businesses if there's not sufficient capacity in the electric system to serve those. And then, of course, lead times and increasing cost. I mentioned the lead times for some of the equipment for these projects, and cost increased drastically during COVID. They've come back down a little bit, but they are still more than twice what we were paying pre-COVID. And the expectation is over time that these assets will continue to increase in cost. So I'll go into some details on the substations. Again, I note here, these are multi-year projects with long lead time equipment. And I think it's important to note here as well, not all of these substations are being started next year, but there are costs associated with the upgrades that are included in that debt that we would be issuing. So the first substation project is a new substation at the corner of Lee Street and Highway 69, and this substation is needed to serve, to add capacity to serve growth in the northern service area. And it's also needed to back up other substations that we're seeing reach capacity or nearing capacity in extreme weather. So in the summer and in the winter, when it's really cold, we've seen a significant increase in our winter load, and our system is now peaking in the winter very close to where we peak in the summertime due to all of the electric load that's being added. So the new homes that are being built are not being built with natural gas heat, they're being built with electric heat. And when it's cold, below freezing, those systems switch to strip heating, which put an extreme amount of demand on our system. And this past winter, we were just a few megawatts shy of hitting our summer peak in the winter. And this is going to be critical to managing that load in the northern area of our service territory. Industrial Park substation upgrade. This is to replace aged equipment that is end of life. It's still functioning, but it has reached an age where we need to prudently look at replacing it. Again, we can't run equipment till it fails. We don't have excess capacity on our system to absorb a failure of a substation. So this would expand our capacity to serve growth in our commercial and industrial load. Again, new businesses. This serves the industrial park area where our manufacturing businesses are located, and that load is expected to grow and is growing. So the Dent Road substation upgrade, again, this is aged equipment and also expanding capacity to serve growth and back up other substations. I could probably put that on every slide because every substation on our system backs up other substations. The Mamie Road substation upgrade, there's just a small piece of this in the capital plan for FY25. This is also an expansion to serve growth in that area of our system. This one requires a substation relocation because it is on a very small triangular piece of land that's surrounded by a residential area. And actually built within a transmission right of way. So this one is going to require a relocation. And it's going to be tricky because we've got some constraints with L3 in that proximity, and there are a lot of requirements, height requirements, and what you can do within flight zones. And so yeah, this one is going to take some work. So we're starting the preliminary work on this project during that 3-year window. But it will be a future upgrade. And then substation distribution breaker replacements. We've got equipment that is at end of life, and these are critical for service. And so we need to replace distribution breakers at 3 substations on our system. So now we'll talk about the transmission project. Our current system is 69 kV, and we're at risk of reaching capacity due to growth in and around our system. Again, transmission growth in the city affects transmission, but growth outside of our service area also affects our transmission because the power flows through our transmission system from surrounding areas. And there are a lot of projects planned right now in the interconnection queue in ERCOT that will push a lot of power through our transmission lines in Greenville. So these are our solar projects, storage projects that are planned that would ultimately flow through our transmission system on its way to serve customers. So this would be the beginning of a long-term project to upgrade our system to 138 kV, and we're projecting that to be a 10-year project. So this would just be the start of that long-term project. And all of our new and upgraded substations will be 138 kV or capable of being converted to 138 kV. So I have a few more slides on the generation project because that is it's a complex project, and a lot has happened in reaching the point we're at today in making a recommendation on generation to the board. So our study timeline started in 2019. We completed an integrated resource plan, and I've got some highlights of what that plan comprised on the next slide. And the resulting recommendation of that study was to build additional local generation. 2020 through 2022, we did a site assessment study on our existing plant site and also assessed different technologies and their capabilities and what might fit within our integrated resource plan. We issued an RFP, a request for proposals for generation technology in 2023. And I'll talk about that RFP. I'll talk a little bit about the process and the results of that in a couple of slides. And in 2024, we're presenting a recommendation for a local generation project, and that's where we are today. So the IRP study, we started with analyzing our current energy supply and forecasted our energy needs through 2039. We evaluated various technologies, including solar with storage, and various natural gas technologies. And the results of that study indicated produced a recommendation to reduce and eventually eliminate our reliance on the steam units, which are 50 to 60 years old. And also proved that solar and the solar plus storage option were not economic or functional solutions. And that's because the way the energy is produced, the duration of the batteries, and the cost of those two options. So just a quick overview of the resources in our energy portfolio. We have 3 steam units, and they were commissioned between 1966 and 1978, and they have served the system well. They're still operating, but as time goes on, whether or not to continue to invest in those has been a decision year by year. But our overarching concerns are the longevity, how much life are left in them. These are mechanical units, and they've been used a lot over their life. The reliability, and then operational concerns, and one that I don't list here is environmental. As these units have aged, and as the environmental regulations have changed, it's become more and more difficult to remain within those limits. But they represent 76% of GEUS's generation capacity. We purchase fixed priced energy for base load, but there is uncertainty in what the future pricing for those products will look like. And our engines, we have 25 megawatts of quick start Wärtsilä engines that are dependable. They're low cost to operate, and they are absolutely the most flexible resource in our portfolio. And they're the perfect tool in the market that we're operating in. We also have some renewable power purchase agreements for wind and solar, and those, the production is intermittent. The solar is much more predictable, but the wind can vary greatly from hour to hour, minute to minute. And they're very difficult to plan the output. When we're planning on how we're going to cover our load obligation, so all of the electrical energy needs in our service area, it's difficult to plan for how much output we're going to get from those resources, but they do provide value. They provide diversity in our portfolio. So when gas prices increase and they cycle, they go from high to low and back to high again. These renewable power purchase agreements help offset that increase in natural gas cost. I want to highlight our generation project team just to put a finer point on who all's been involved in this planning and this work that's been done. That's been a multi-year and multi-skilled team that's come together to review what the best path forward is. So we had representatives from our board, from administration, from our production division, energy market management, engineering, marketing, communications, and technology. And we also worked with several consultants that helped us study various options and cost and opportunities. So some highlights from the RFP. We issued that in December of 2023. We received 5 responses, so 5 different vendors responded, representing 6 different technologies. We held on-site vendor meetings in March. Again, the entire team participated in those. We shortlisted the vendors in June and completed a final evaluation in July. And we selected the finalists with the best ownership value and fit for the generation needs of the system. And I will talk next about what is that best value. So we scored on cost of ownership, technical specifications, ability to deliver, and operational flexibility. And those were weighted categories. Under each one of those categories, we had multiple subcategories. So cost of ownership, for instance, it's not just the price that was proposed for the technology, but it's how much does it cost to operate and maintain those or that technology over the life of the project. And so that's just an example of some subcategories that we looked at. Of course, technical specifications was much more detailed, but ultimately it was seeking what provides the best value in cost and in the ability to operate the most efficiently for the products that we need to deliver for the most value. So the total capacity is around 105 megawatts, right below that. These units are dispatchable, meaning you turn them on, you turn them off. When there's a need, they're turned on, and when not, you can turn them right off. They're fast start. They start within from start to full load in 5 minutes. They're natural gas fired units, and they are delivered from the factory with 25% hydrogen capability. And why is that important? Well, there's a lot of research and a lot of investment in green hydrogen right now. And so that is where energy from renewable facilities is used to produce hydrogen. It's certified as green, and it is a product that reduces greenhouse gas, and that's a big concern for generating plants, and it's a way to deliver a reduction in emissions while delivering reliability, and that's critical. So the financial impacts, we would need to issue new bonds in FY24 this fiscal year of $109.8 million. And we're projecting for FY25 that we would issue $68.6 million, and then in FY26, $82.9 million. Generation project is expected to reduce the fuel adjustment charge bill component. We would be able to produce a megawatt at half the cost that we could produce a megawatt, roughly half the cost that we could produce a megawatt with our steam units today. Very efficient, very low cost to produce energy. Our rates are reviewed annually prior to budget, and we're forecasting no base rate increase is needed for this next fiscal year. Growth helps cover costs. As we add new customers to the system, those costs are spread across more and more customers. And so that is what has enabled us to hold our rates, to be able to hold our rates since 2014, have a rate reduction in 2020, and manage multiple unexpected costs since that time, tornadoes and Winter Storm Uri and COVID and lots of other unexpected additional costs, without having to raise rates. At the end of the day, that is our goal, is to maintain rates as long as we can, maintain our rates. This project would be eligible for the Texas Energy Fund grants, and we do intend to apply for those grants if this project moves forward. So there will be a public hearing for the FY25 bond sale on August 15th. This presentation, as I mentioned before, and an FAQ will be posted on the GEUS website soon, so we welcome all questions, so that we can, so that we can put together a good, informative FAQ that will be available on the website. And I just want to say thank you for your interest in your locally owned utility.